If you work in a historically underserved area, a poor area of your city, there are something called CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. And these small institutions have money funded from HUD to create businesses in their area. And you can get small business loans at very affordable rates. I don't know if they do grants or not, but these are community-based organizations. So if you put CDFI in your search and the name of your city, you're going to find some in your area and what their criteria are on. So those are a few different funding ideas aside from VCs or loans and that kind of thing. So what I want to do now is just open it up to you and ask our great panel some questions. Let's start here.
Do you know of any?
Could you stand up and so everyone could hear you?
Hi, I'm June Klein, Technology Marketing Ventures. Do you know of any government grants specifically for a program that has a solution for creating jobs?
I can answer that. Anybody else want to take a crack at that first? Okay, so the question is, are there any government grants for if you have a solution for creating jobs? So you hear about, you can sit down, thank you. You hear about federal grants, right? Very, very, very few federal grants for small business. That's the truth. And only usually in the technology field. There's something called SBIR, Small Business Investment and Research, I think. And SBIR grants are given by the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of Transportation if you have a very specific product that can help that agency. There are some grants on state levels where they're looking to create a job. You'd have to do some research and Google those terms. State and local, and those CDFIs might even also find some grant money, but usually it's loans. There's not a lot of free money out there.
What sort of fundraising strategies are there for not-for-profit businesses?
What I've seen with a few companies that have come through our organization is that there could be a strategy where it's a for-profit business with a non-for-profit component as well. So they're actually seeking funds for the for-profit portion of it, and that essentially gives them the leverage to sort of to channel through. The problem, though, is like I said, the non-for-profit makes it a challenge in order to come through the venture market. Other things you can do is some of these creative ways sound very interesting. Bootstrapping always is one of the things that I tell everybody to try, especially if they're still early along and they haven't raised enough funds to really entice an angel organization. And there's so many creative ways of doing it. Obviously, the one that comes to mind the most is just maxing out your credit card or going through your home equity line of credit. But there's other ways to do it. You can bring interns on, so that way you're saving on the costs of staff. You can find ways of venture out into the sales arena in a way that the sales might be generating more funds for your particular company. And of course, grants if they are available. I don't know of many right now. That's not my area of expertise. Maybe one or two of you might have some other solutions.
Well, certainly. I mean, we're open to not-for-profit organizations as well for our program support.
And I also look at microfinance. There's a lot of microfinance organizations, not just in foreign countries now, but like Kiva. I don't know if you ever heard of Kiva, right? Kiva gives small business loans to foreign businesses who want to create little businesses, right? Usually you're going to help someone buy a cow and create a business in Kenya, but Kiva now is in the United States, and they do some social entrepreneurship stuff like Todd was talking about. Yes, sir.
Chris Walworth, Sea Rebel. I make a water sports board that's powered. I have some patents in life. My question is another angel question.
Sure.
And kind of important one, I'm sure some of the other guys here have the same question. What are typical angel terms, like angel rebate terms?
Does everyone hear that? The question is, what are the typical terms for repayment if you get an angel investment?
So the first thing I'd like to stress about angel funding is that it's not a loan. Okay, it's expansion capital to bring it to a certain level of your business. Typically, angel groups like businesses whose business valuations are under 10 million. You're probably safer to have a valuation closer to 5 million, so to speak. the question came up before, what's important about, in terms of getting funding? Is it the management team or is it a unique idea? Those are equally important. Another key area in terms of getting funding is what is your exit strategy? What type of return do you expect to have on the investors, or what, if, based on your pre-money valuation, once you receive funding, when it's time to actually exit, and whatever that exit is going to be, what do you expect the value of your company to be at that particular point? Is it going to be 5x return? Is it going to be a 10x return? Is it going to be a 100x return? And if you can actually communicate that, why? And now, something else you want to consider too is what percentage of your company do you want to actually give away? When I say that, it's you're going into a partnership. When somebody invests in your company, there's a level of equity that they're going to expect for the dollars that they're putting forth. And how much will that be? You mean, or yeah, it depends on it depends on a lot of factors, such as, do you have a strong management team? If you don't, you're going to expect to give away a larger portion of your business. If you have a very strong management team that's able to execute and has demonstrated in the past that you're capable of doing this, plus your sales pipeline is strong, you have the right leads going forward, you could probably negotiate smaller terms in terms of what exactly. So anywhere from 15% I've seen up to probably 35-40%. I've had a couple companies that have been asked by angels, to give up about 80% of their company. But then I also ask those companies too is, will you be satisfied with making $100,000 a year, and taking 100% of that, or if your business is capable of growing, $10 to $100 million, would you rather take a smaller portion of that amount? So some things to consider.
How about over here? Did I see some? No? Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Bill McClellan with Bags Snaggers. My question is for Toni. Could you just go into a little bit about the microloans and expand upon what those are and how they operate?
The microloans are part of the domestic program. It's not really the programs that I represent, so I'll try to address your question, but I would refer you to the website that goes into detail on this. So basically the microloans are usually those amounts that are much smaller than traditional loans, and they're usually targeting a certain element of either an industry sector, a small industry sector, a small kind of operation, very, very personal operation. By that I mean, it's hard for me to think of an example, but usually it's in developing countries, if you think of it in an international context. Again, I apologize.
I can help you.
Fine, go right ahead.
So it used to be SBA-backed microloans, is that what you're talking about? Worth up to $35,000 for working capital. That just got raised to $50,000. And you can use it for almost anything in your business. It's low doc, there's not a lot of documentation that's needed. You'll probably have to put up some collateral. Most SBA loans are collateralized. Not all are, and in fact I remember reading something that it's not dispositive, but they like it.
Well, what you have to remember about SBA, whether it's domestic or the export programs I represent, as I said earlier, the programs are all delivered through an approved SBA lender. And the approved SBA lender is usually a commercial bank. So your dialogue begins with your banker. And before you go talk to your banker, just like all these other sessions have told you, you need to have your plan. You need to do your homework. You have to remember that when you sit across the table from the banker, whether you're looking for a micro loan or you're looking for $500,000 or $1 million or $5 million, which our programs go up to now, they're all going to be thinking the same thing. Number one, why should I do this? Number two, how are they going to repay? And number three, how do I sell this internally? Because if you can't convince them, if you don't have the message to convince them, it's not going to go anywhere. And if you're talking about the small business level, you need to make sure that you're speaking to the business banker level at your lender. Most of these large banks, I mean, we're sitting in the money center here, so we're talking Chase, Citibank, all the names that you hear all the time. They break up their levels of officers the same way. And that is that you have the first line, which is basically either that assistant manager of the branch or the branch manager, but then you have the business banker. The business banker is usually charged with more than one branch. And in that realm that they cover, they usually handle requests up to, say, $1 million, $2 million. It depends on their internal policy.